New girl handles trash work first, Sergeant Cole Harrington said, dropping a thick stack of old complaint files onto the locker room bench hard enough to make the metal legs rattle. It was 6:12 in the morning at Westbridge Police Department, the hour when the precinct still smelled like burnt coffee, rain on leather jackets, floor cleaner, and the tired heat of uniforms pulled from lockers before sunrise. Maya Ellison stood just inside the doorway in a plain officer uniform, her hair pulled neatly back, her badge polished, her expression calm enough to make the laughter around her sound smaller than the men intended. Officer Brian Keller leaned against a row of gray lockers with a paper cup in his hand and laughed first, eager and too loud, the kind of laugh that begged to be noticed by someone higher up. Two other officers looked down at their boots. Officer Denise Carter kept her eyes on the zipper of her duty bag, pretending the moment was not asking anything from her. Across the room, Officer Luis Ramirez glanced from Harrington to Maya and did not smile. Harrington was 45, white, broad-shouldered, and comfortable in the room because he had spent years convincing everyone that comfort and command were the same thing. His sergeant's stripes sat on his sleeve like permission. "You can start by sorting those," he said, nodding toward the files. "Then maybe we will find something simple enough for you to handle." Maya looked at the folders. Some were creased. Some had coffee stains. One had a sticky note so old the yellow had faded toward gray. She did not reach for them right away. She looked at Harrington's nameplate. Then Keller's. Then Carter's. Then the wall camera in the upper corner, its tiny red light blinking quietly above the lockers. "Put the assignment on record," she said. The laughter thinned. Harrington tilted his head, as if he had misheard the shape of her courage. "Excuse me?" Maya stepped closer to the bench, not challenging his space, only refusing to shrink from her own. "If these files are being assigned to me, put it on the duty log. Time, supervisor, reason for reassignment." Keller gave a short laugh. "She has been here 5 minutes and already wants paperwork." Harrington smiled without warmth. "Rookies do not ask for records. Rookies learn humility." Maya's eyes stayed on him. Humility is not the same as humiliation. The sentence landed cleanly in the locker room, and for 1 second even the humming fluorescent lights seemed louder than the people. Harrington's smile tightened. He did not know the envelope inside Maya's locker bag held her official appointment letter. He did not know the Captain bars wrapped in white tissue in her inner pocket would be pinned on before noon. He did not know Deputy Chief Raymond Ellis was scheduled to introduce her in morning briefing as the new captain of Westbridge Police Department. To him, she was just a black woman in a plain officer uniform standing where he believed new people were supposed to stand, below him, quiet, grateful for permission to exist in his precinct. Maya finally lifted the top file from the stack. The first page showed a complaint filed 18 days earlier by a mother whose son had been threatened near a bus stop. Maya read the date, then looked back at Harrington. "Who handled this follow-up?" she asked. Harrington's face changed, not much, but enough. The morning had begun as a joke. Maya had just turned it into a record. Maya Ellison had not arrived early by accident. She had parked 2 blocks from Westbridge Police Department before sunrise, walked in through the employee entrance with a plain officer name tag on her chest, and left her captain bars wrapped in white tissue inside the inner pocket of her locker bag. At 36, she had already spent 14 years learning that the truth of a police department rarely showed itself during official introductions. It showed itself in locker rooms before coffee cooled, in jokes people made when they thought no one important was listening, in which complaint files gathered dust, and in how officers treated the person they believed had no power to answer back. Maya had grown up in Atlanta in a narrow apartment above a laundromat, where sirens were part of the evening sound, and her mother kept the blinds open because she said fear should never be allowed to own the windows. Her father had been killed when Maya was 16, not by a stranger in a dramatic headline, but by the slow failure of small warnings nobody followed up. A neighbor had called twice about threats near the corner store. A patrol unit had rolled by once, marked the area clear, and moved on. By the time anyone took it seriously, the paperwork was already behind the grief. That was why Maya became a detective, Not because she loved authority, but because she hated the way ignored details could become funerals. In Atlanta, she built her reputation by reading what others skimmed, returning calls people had stopped expecting, and treating complaints from poor neighborhoods like they weighed the same as complaints from gated ones. Deputy Chief Raymond Ellis had noticed that. When Westbridge needed a new captain after years of community distrust and internal complaints, he asked her one question during the final interview. "Can you change a culture that has learned to protect itself?" Maya had answered, "Only if I see it before it sees me." Now, in the Westbridge locker room, she held the faded complaint file and understood she had been right to come unannounced. The mother's name was Patricia Wells. Her son was 15. The complaint said repeated threats near a bus stop on Cedar Avenue. Date received, 18 days ago. Follow-up blank. Supervisor initials, blank. Maya felt the old familiar cold move through her, the kind that came whenever negligence tried to disguise itself as workload. Harrington watched her read, irritation sharpening because the joke had stopped being funny before he was finished enjoying it. "That file is low priority," he said. Maya looked at the empty follow-up line. "A mother reporting threats against her child is not low priority." Keller snorted from the lockers. "You do not even know the district yet." Maya closed the folder halfway, keeping one finger on the page. "Then teach me properly. Who was assigned?" Denise Carter finally looked up, her face tight with discomfort. Ramirez stood silent near the door, but his eyes had settled on the file, not on Harrington. Maya could feel the precinct waking beyond the locker room walls, phones ringing in the bullpen, radios cracking to life, a printer grinding out reports, coffee being poured into cheap paper cups. A department beginning another day while an 18-day-old warning sat in her hand like a test. She did not reveal herself. Not yet. She only placed the file on top of the stack, turned it toward Harrington, and said, "This one comes first." Sergeant Cole Harrington had spent nearly 20 years at Westbridge Police Department learning how to make habits sound like law. He knew which chairs belonged to which officers, which coffee mug nobody touched, which complaints could be delayed without anyone upstairs asking questions, and which new arrivals needed to be reminded that the precinct already had an order before they walked in. He called it tradition. He called it keeping rookies humble. He called it old-school policing, the phrase men used when they wanted their comfort mistaken for wisdom. To Harrington, the locker room, the garage, the bullpen, and the briefing room were not shared spaces. They were territory. He had survived chiefs, captains, policy changes, community forums, and reform memos by outlasting them all. New people came in with clean language and fresh ideas, then learned to lower their voices around him. That was how he measured authority, not by the badge, but by who could make others step around him. Maya Ellison did not step around him. That was the first thing that bothered him. The second was worse. She did not seem eager to impress him. A new officer was supposed to laugh at the right jokes, take the ugly assignments, pretend public disrespect was mentorship, and call it paying dues. Instead, this black woman in a plain officer uniform had asked for the duty log, checked the camera, questioned an old complaint, and spoken the word first as if neglected people still had the right to be first in a police station. Harrington looked at the file she had turned toward him, and gave a slow smile meant to put the room back under his control. "You have been here less than 10 minutes, he said. "Maybe learn where the bathrooms are before you start fixing the department." Keller laughed again, but softer now, watching Harrington for permission to continue. Carter looked at the floor. Ramirez's jaw tightened. Maya did not answer the insult. She opened the file again and read the case number aloud, calm and exact. Complaint received 18 days ago. Threats reported near Cedar Avenue bus stop. Reporting party requested follow-up twice. No supervisor initials. Harrington's expression flattened. "That is not how we do things here." Maya looked up. That may be the problem. The room held its breath. Harrington stepped closer, lowering his voice the way men do when they want intimidation to sound private. "Listen carefully. Around here, rookies do not audit sergeants. They do what they are told. Maya looked at his stripes, then at his nameplate, then at the blinking camera. And sergeants document decisions that affect public safety. Keller lifted his phone halfway, trying to hide a grin. This is gold, he muttered. Maya noticed the phone without turning toward it. She noticed Carter's silence. She noticed Ramirez finally moving one step nearer to the bench. Harrington saw the movement too and sharpened his tone. Ramirez, do you have somewhere to be? Ramirez stopped, but he did not move back. Briefing starts in 20, he said. Harrington nodded toward the stack of files. Good. Then our new officer has 20 minutes to learn humility. He picked up the Cedar Avenue complaint and pushed it back into the pile as if burying paper could bury responsibility. Maya placed her hand on top of the stack before he could walk away. No, she said. She has 20 minutes to learn who delayed this case. The sound of the bullpen waking up pushed through the locker room door, phones ringing, keys striking desk drawers, radios crackling with early calls, the station printer dragging paper through tired rollers. Harrington stood with the Cedar Avenue complaint half buried under the stack, his hand still on the folder, his smile gone. Maya kept her palm on the files, not gripping, not fighting, simply refusing to let a mother's warning disappear beneath a lesson meant to humiliate her. Move your hand, Harrington said. Maya looked at the faded sticky note on the complaint, then at him. Put the reassignment and delay reason in the log. Keller lifted his phone higher now, pretending to check a message while the camera pointed toward the bench. You hear that, Sarge? New girl wants a paper trail. Harrington glanced at the phone and smirked, deciding the recording made him safer because he still thought the story belonged to him. Fine, he said. Here is your assignment. You can sort cold complaints, clean out the cruiser inventory from last night, and wipe down Patrol Unit 12 in the garage. Maybe after that you will understand how rookies earn trust. Carter looked up quickly, guilt flashing across her face before she hid it again. Ramirez stepped forward. Sarge, the Cedar Avenue files should be routed to community response before briefing. Harrington turned on him. Did I ask you? Ramirez held his ground but said nothing more. Maya noticed that too. Courage did not always arrive complete. Sometimes it arrived 1 inch at a time. She lifted the Cedar Avenue complaint, placed it on top of the stack, and picked up the rest of the files with both hands. I will document the assignment at 6:24 in the morning, she said. Supervisor, Sergeant Harrington. Reason given, rookie discipline. The words sharpened the air. Harrington's face darkened behind a smile that tried to stay casual. You keep talking like that, you will have a long first day. Maya moved toward the door. Long days are still supposed to be useful. Keller laughed and followed a few steps behind, phone still angled toward her. The bullpen turned as Maya entered carrying the stack of old complaints. A few officers glanced up from computers. Someone whispered. Someone else grinned. Harrington's voice carried from behind her. Make room, people. Our reformer wants to save the city before breakfast. The joke landed, but not everywhere. Ramirez went to his desk and opened the duty log. Carter remained in the locker room doorway, watching Maya place the Cedar Avenue files separate from the others on an empty workstation. Maya read the mother's name again, Patricia Wells. She imagined a woman calling twice, maybe from a kitchen table before work, maybe after standing at the bus stop with her son and looking over her shoulder. Maya had heard that kind of fear in too many voices to let it become paperwork dust. Harrington walked past her and dropped a ring of cruiser keys beside the stack. Garage, he said. Patrol Unit 12. Start there. Maya picked up the keys. The metal was cold in her palm. She looked toward the wall clock, then toward the duty log on Ramirez's screen. 6:27, she said. Assignment received. Keller's grin faltered. The room was beginning to understand that she was not reacting like someone being broken in. She was collecting. The garage beneath Westbridge Police Department was colder than the locker room, with concrete floors stained by years of tires, oil, rainwater, and winter salt dragged in from the street. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, turning Patrol Unit 12 into a long black and white shape beneath a greenish glow. Maya Ellison stood beside the cruiser with a clean rag in one hand and the key ring on the hood, her plain officer name tag catching a thin strip of light each time she moved. Keller followed her down there as if the garage were a stage and not a workplace, holding his phone low near his chest, recording the joke he thought he was helping write. "First day and already on car wash duty," he said. "Westbridge tradition." Maya wiped dust from the hood in slow, even strokes. "Is recording rookies also tradition?" Keller's smile flickered. "Relax. It is just for the squad. Then preserve it," she said. "It may become part of the record." He laughed because he did not know what else to do, but the laugh came out thinner than before. Harrington stood near the entrance ramp with a coffee cup in his hand, watching from a distance, letting humiliation do what direct orders could not. Carter had followed halfway down the stairs and stopped near the door, arms folded, her face tight with the shame of someone who knew silence was not neutral but had not yet decided what courage would cost. Ramirez entered a minute later carrying a clipboard from the duty desk. He did not interrupt. He only stood where the camera above the garage could see him, and where Maya could see she was no longer entirely alone. Harrington noticed and called across the concrete. "Ramirez, unless you are supervising towels now, get back upstairs." Ramirez looked at Patrol Unit 12, then at Maya. "Duty log needed mileage verification." It was an excuse, but a useful one. Maya respected that. She kept wiping the hood, letting the rag collect gray dust that should have belonged to no one's dignity. Harrington walked closer. "You know, Officer Ellison, this place does not reward attitude." Maya looked at her reflection in the cruiser's windshield. For a moment, the glass gave her two versions of herself, the plain officer they thought they were breaking in, and the captain waiting in her pocket beneath folded tissue and restraint. "Does it reward follow-up?" she asked. Harrington's eyes narrowed. "Still stuck on that complaint?" "A mother called twice. People call about everything. Not every call is equal, but every call deserves a reason if we ignore it." Keller lowered his phone slightly. Carter looked away. Harrington set his coffee on the roof of the cruiser, too close to where Maya had just cleaned, and smiled. "Here is your reason. We prioritize real cases." The words made the garage feel colder. Maya stopped wiping. Not abruptly. Not with anger. Simply stopped, so the silence could show where the sentence had landed. "Say that again on the record," she said. Harrington's smile faded. Behind them, the garage camera blinked red. Upstairs, briefing was getting closer. In Maya's inner pocket, the captain bars rested against her chest, small, hard, and patient. For a moment, no one in the garage moved. Harrington's coffee cup sat on the cruiser roof, a small brown ring beginning to form beneath it, staining the shine Maya had just restored. Keller's phone remained angled toward her, but his grin had faded into uncertainty. Carter stood by the stairwell door with one hand on the rail, watching the space between what she knew was wrong and what she had spent years allowing. Ramirez held the clipboard at his side, quiet, visible, choosing not to disappear. Maya looked at the red light of the garage camera, then at the reflection of her own face in the patrol car windshield. The fluorescent lights made everything look harsher than it was: the concrete floor, the cruiser's dust, Harrington's stiff jaw, the plain officer badge on her chest. In her inner pocket, the captain bars pressed lightly against her like a reminder that power is sometimes most honest when it waits. She could take them out. She could end the joke in 1 second. She could watch Keller drop his phone, Carter straighten, Ramirez exhale, and Harrington's face rearrange itself around the truth. But that would only prove he feared rank. It would not prove what he did when he believed rank was absent. Maya picked up the coffee cup from the roof, wiped the ring with the rag, and set the cup on a nearby workbench without spilling a drop. Harrington watched her with a look that wanted to call dignity arrogance. "You done?" he asked. Maya folded the rag once, then placed it beside the keys. "No," she said. "Not yet. Upstairs, The precinct intercom cracked softly, announcing morning briefing in 5 minutes. The sound echoed down the ramp and through the garage, thin and metallic. Maya thought of her mother in Atlanta, standing by the apartment window with the blinds open, refusing to let fear own the glass. Do not let their smallness make you forget your purpose. Maya had carried that sentence through crime scenes, courtrooms, midnight door knocks, grieving kitchens, and precincts where people mistook toughness for cruelty. Purpose was not the Captain bars in her pocket. Purpose was Patricia Wells calling twice and being ignored. Purpose was a 15-year-old boy walking to a bus stop under a threat no one had bothered to verify. Purpose was seeing a department clearly before accepting responsibility for it. Harrington turned toward the stairs. "Bring the files to briefing," he said. "And leave the attitude down here." Maya picked up the Cedar Avenue complaint from the hood, where she had set it apart from the rest. "The file comes with me," she said. Harrington stopped but did not turn around. "You really do not know when to stop." Maya looked once more at the garage camera, at Keller's phone, at Carter's silence, at Ramirez's clipboard. "I know exactly when to stop," she said. "After the record is complete." Then she walked toward the stairs with the complaint held flat against her chest, the Captain bars still hidden, the truth still waiting for the room upstairs. The briefing room at Westbridge Police Department filled with the restless noise of officers trying to look awake before the day had fully begun. Paper cups steamed on the side table. Radios murmured from shoulders. Chairs scraped across the floor. The wall clock read 6:57, and gray morning light pressed through the narrow windows, flattening every face into the same tired color. Harrington walked in first, carrying himself like a man returning to a room that belonged to him. Keller slipped into a seat near the back, phone now tucked away but not forgotten. Carter sat 2 rows from the front with her hands folded too tightly in her lap. Ramirez stood near the side wall with the duty log clipboard against his chest. Maya entered last, still in the plain officer uniform, Cedar Avenue complaint file held flat in one hand. A few officers glanced at her, then at the dust mark on her sleeve from the garage, then at Harrington's satisfied expression. Someone near the back whispered, "Long first day." Maya heard it, and kept walking. She chose a seat near the front instead of standing along the wall where new people were expected to make themselves small. Harrington noticed and smiled. "Bold choice," he said quietly as he passed. Maya placed the file on the table in front of her. "Documented choice," she replied. Before Harrington could answer, the door opened and Deputy Chief Raymond Ellis stepped inside. The room rose out of habit. Ellis was 58, black, broad-shouldered, with a calm face and eyes that missed very little. His uniform was sharp, his voice even, and his presence carried the kind of authority that did not need to hurry. He nodded once for everyone to sit, then looked across the room. His gaze passed over Harrington, over Keller, over the officers still smiling from jokes they did not yet know had expired, and finally settled on Maya. For the first time that morning, she allowed herself the smallest breath. Ellis walked to the front without a folder, without ceremony. "Before we begin," he said, "I am here to introduce your new captain." Harrington leaned back slightly, almost amused, and glanced toward the door behind Ellis as if waiting for someone important to enter. Keller craned his neck. Carter's face went pale before the words even came because she had started to understand silence too late. Ramirez straightened against the wall. Ellis did not turn toward the door. He looked directly at Maya. "Captain Ellison," he said, "the room is yours." The briefing room froze. Not quiet. Frozen. Keller's mouth opened a fraction. Harrington's posture locked in place, his confidence trapped halfway between disbelief and damage control. Carter stared at the file in front of Maya as if it had suddenly become evidence. Maya stood slowly. She reached into her inner pocket, removed the white tissue, and unwrapped the Captain bars with careful hands. The metal caught the gray morning light. No one laughed. No one whispered. She pinned them onto her uniform, then lifted the Cedar Avenue complaint file from the table. When she looked at Harrington, Her voice remained exactly as calm as it had been in the locker room. Let us begin with what was ignored before breakfast. The silence after Maya pinned the captain bars onto her uniform felt heavier than any lecture could have been. Every officer in the room had seen the same morning from a different angle: the stack of neglected complaints, the locker room joke, the garage assignment, the phone recording, the coffee cup on the cruiser roof, the Cedar Avenue file carried like evidence into briefing. Now all of it sat under a new light. Deputy Chief Ellis remained near the front wall, saying nothing, allowing Maya to decide what kind of authority would enter the department with her name. Harrington cleared his throat. Captain, there seems to have been a misunderstanding. Maya looked at him, then at the room. There was no misunderstanding. There was an assumption. Keller lowered his eyes. Carter's hands tightened in her lap. Ramirez stood straighter against the wall. Maya placed the Cedar Avenue complaint on the front table and opened it to the first page. This complaint was filed 18 days ago by Patricia Wells. She reported repeated threats toward her 15-year-old son near a bus stop. There are no supervisor initials, no follow-up entry, no contact confirmation, and no explanation for delay. Harrington shifted in his chair. Captain, we have hundreds of calls. Prioritization happens. Then prioritization must be documented, Maya said. Not hidden under a joke. The words moved across the room without rising. She turned to Ellis. Deputy Chief, I am requesting preservation of locker room camera footage, garage camera footage, duty log entries, Patrol Unit 12 assignment records, and any personal recording made this morning involving department personnel. Keller's face changed. His phone suddenly looked heavy in his pocket. Ellis nodded once. Approved. Maya looked toward Keller. Officer Keller, you will submit the recording before you leave this room. Keller swallowed. Yes, Captain. She turned to Carter. Officer Carter, you witnessed the initial assignment and the comments made in the locker room. Carter looked at Harrington, then at Maya, then down at the complaint file. For one painful second, silence tried to reclaim her. Then she lifted her eyes. Yes, Captain. I witnessed it. Harrington's jaw tightened. Maya did not show satisfaction. This was not revenge. It was the first honest page in a room too used to blank spaces. Sergeant Harrington, she said, you will move to administrative duty pending internal review of conduct, assignment practices, and delayed complaint handling. You will not supervise patrol assignments until that review is complete. Harrington opened his mouth, then saw Ellis standing beside her, and closed it. The room heard the decision land. Maya picked up the Cedar Avenue file. Officer Ramirez, contact Patricia Wells and arrange immediate follow-up. Officer Carter, assist with the case history. Officer Keller, after submitting your recording, you will provide a written statement. One by one, they answered. Yes, Captain. The phrase did not sound like obedience alone. It sounded like the room learning a new center of gravity. Maya looked across the officers, some ashamed, some wary, some finally awake. The badge is not a shield for our comfort, she said. It is a promise to people who call before something becomes irreversible. We start there. By late afternoon, Westbridge Police Department sounded different. Not peaceful, not fixed, not forgiven, but different. The laughter that had filled the locker room before sunrise had been replaced by lower voices, ringing phones, steady typing, and the quiet pressure of people realizing cameras, logs, and ignored files could speak long after jokes disappeared. Maya Ellison stood inside the captain's office for the first time, the door opened behind her, the room still bare except for a desk, 2 chairs, a city map, a radio charger, and a window facing the parking lot where patrol cars waited in rows under soft gray light. She removed the plain officer name tag from her chest and placed it on the desk beside the white tissue that had held her captain bars. The 2 pieces of metal lay there together, one used to make her look small, the other revealing what had been true all morning. She looked at them for a moment, then turned to the Cedar Avenue complaint file. Patricia Wells had answered Officer Ramirez's call on the second ring. Her voice, according to the notes, had gone quiet when he said the department was following up at last. Carter had already pulled the prior entries and found both missed calls logged but never assigned. Keller had submitted the video, his written statement short, stiff, and ashamed. Harrington's desk outside sat untouched, his chair pushed in, his patrol supervisor keys removed pending review. No scene. No shouting. Just absence, procedure, and the slow beginning of accountability. Maya sat down, opened the complaint, and signed the immediate follow-up order. Community response would visit Cedar Avenue before sunset. Patrol presence would be documented. The mother would receive a case contact, not another promise lost between shifts. Maya held the pen a second longer after signing, thinking of her father, of the corner store in Atlanta, of warnings treated as background noise until grief made them impossible to ignore. Her mother's words returned in the quiet office. Do not let their smallness make you forget your purpose. Outside the door, Ramirez paused with an update folder in hand. Carter stood beside him, not hiding this time. Captain, Ramirez said, Mrs. Wells agreed to meet at 4:30. I will take Carter with me. Maya nodded. Listen first. Then act? Carter met her eyes. Yes, Captain. It was not redemption yet, but it was a start, and Maya had learned to respect honest starts. After they left, she walked to the window. In the bullpen, Keller sat at his desk writing his statement again, slower this time. Officers moved around each other carefully, as if the building had become aware of its own echo. The garage lights flickered below. Patrol Unit 12 sat clean under them, the hood reflecting a pale strip of sky. Maya looked back at the desk, at the name tag and Captain bars side by side, then at the first reopened file under her hand. No one said new girl again. The room did not need to announce that justice had arrived. It only needed to keep the record open.